And with me on the program now, Liberal MP Wyatt Roy and Labor MP Nick Champion. Wyatt Roy, first to you, would it have been better for the government not to have got involved in this East China Sea dispute at all? And the Foreign Minister summoned the ambassador earlier in the week to express concerns. Why did we have to do that? Why not just stay out of it?
Well, it is in Australia's national interest, and it's in the interest of the region that we have peace and prosperity across our Asia-Pacific region. And I think that, as the Foreign Minister pointed out, it is a long-standing practice for us to raise concerns when unilateral action is taken without consultation. These actions change the status quo in the region, and it's incredibly important that we raise those concerns, and we're doing it with other nations. I saw the US Vice President Joe Biden raise similar concerns, and I know that he will be raising those concerns when he goes to China. I know Julie Bishop is visiting China soon and will raise those concerns, and I think it's completely appropriate because all nations in our region benefit from continued peace and prosperity.
Nick Champion, Julie Bishop didn't concede that this could have ramifications for finalising free trade talks with Beijing, but obviously it could.
Well, I think the larger concern with the free trade talks is really that they've set a deadline to do it within a year, as I understand it, and that puts enormous pressure on our negotiators and perhaps puts them at a disadvantage at the bargaining table. I see that the East China Sea issue is somewhat separate to that. I think there is a bit of a difference between the trade agreements and this dispute that's currently going on. But more broadly with the East China Sea, we want to see a rules-based system, a system that encourages the protagonists to negotiate and to talk rather than to take unilateral action. And I guess the government sort of indicated that to the Chinese. I guess time will tell whether the manner in which we've done that is prudent or not.
Well, Nick Champion, the language from China is unequivocal. I want to read it again. China urges Australia to correct its mistake immediately to prevent damaging Sino-Australian relations. They could not be stronger in their response. Do you think the Foreign Minister should, are you suggesting she should not have raised those concerns with the ambassador and stayed out of it, as I asked that question a bit earlier of Wyatt Roy?
Well, look, I guess it's not so much about the policy, which I think broadly we agree on. We want a rules-based system to resolve territorial disputes. We want the protagonists in the region not to take unilateral action, and we want peace and stability in our region. But I guess often it's not just what you say, or it's the way you say it. And I guess, as I said before, time will tell whether the government's been prudent in raising the issue the way it has.
Now, I want to ask you, Wyatt Roy, something I asked Nick and also the Foreign Minister about the free trade talks. It comes at an awkward moment. You'd accept that, wouldn't you, given that the Prime Minister's given a 12-month time frame to try and finalise the FTA with China?
Well, what we've seen with the free trade agreement is that while the Labor Party was in government, they were unable to finalise this agreement. It went on for years and years and years without an outcome. We've seen New Zealand achieve much greater success in a much shorter time frame. So I think it is reasonable to say when two nations will receive a strong mutual benefit from the signing of a free trade agreement, we will have greater prosperity between our two nations, that we will work collectively to try and achieve an agreement on free trade as soon as possible, because we have had inaction for a very long period of time, and our two nations will have a great benefit. Well,
this spat obviously won't help it, will it?
Well, I think that there is an enormous benefit to our two nations on free trade. That is, as Nick pointed out, somewhat of a separate issue from the one that we were discussing. And I think that it's important for our two nations to come together at the negotiating table to work through issues that the former Labor government was incapable of working through over many, many years. And I think that both sides of this negotiation will see that there is an enormous benefit to both nations if we can complete this free trade agreement.
We've got to take a break, gentlemen. Stay with us. Wyatt Roy and Nick Champion here on AM Agenda this morning. We'll be right back.
Be the last one there, mate. There you go, matey. It's just a magic time of day. Yeah.
Not on my watch.
It's not about things, it's about experiences. Experience also teaches you to persevere and have patience.
Hello, big brother.
Your luck increases the longer your line's in the water.
At APIA, we understand experience. We're rewarded with insurance for those who have it. If you're over 50, call us for a chat and find out how APIA rewards your experience.
I'm Heston Blumenthal, and this is my delicious short crust fruit mince pie with tangerine sugar dusting, just like snow. It's exclusive to Coles, and it's absolutely delicious.
Right now at Target, get 30% off underwear and sleepwear for the whole family, including 30% off Bonds, underwear and socks.
Get more, pay less at Target.
Give more, pay less at Target.
New So Good Regular comes with vitamin D and extra calcium. Discover So Good Regular, now with vitamin D and half your daily calcium in one glass. So good, the way it makes you feel.
Hi, welcome to Toyota's all-out clearance event.
Hi, we're looking for something really safe for the twins.
Oh, well, we're going all out with some of our best ever deals on Camry and Orion.
So, room for the clubs, the board, the bike.
You mean room for all the baby gear?
Huh? Yeah, of course.
Get end-of-year deals like Camry LTs from $26,990 drive away, or Orion ATX from $29,990 drive away.
You don't have to go to Mexico to enjoy the authentic flavours of real Mexican food. You only have to go to your nearest supermarket. Mission, the real taste of Mexico since 1959.
You give me something that nobody else can give. See my heart and started thumbing. You know, babe, you're the one I truly know I dig. Something, you give me something that nobody else can give. Oh, will you give me?
Life is a journey in which we're all travelers, looking to make that great trip with someone. Journeys are made by the people you travel with.
This is AM Agenda. Thanks for your company. We've got live pictures now from the Lowy Institute in Sydney, where the Nobel Peace Prize laureate Aung San Suu Kyi will be speaking at an event very shortly. There'll be a question and answer session there as well at the Lowy Institute. If you'd like to watch that, you can do so on channel 648 APAC, or press red on your remote control to watch the Nobel Peace Prize laureate there at the Lowy Institute this morning. With me on the AM Agenda program, we've got Nick Champion and Wyatt Roy. Nick, on the Indonesia spying row, we're hearing there'll be new protocols, rules of engagement, or code of conduct on intelligence sharing. Given the nature of this area, as I asked the Foreign Minister, it's a top secret area. Is this likely just to be a bit of window dressing to try and smooth over the rift?
Well, look, again, time will tell. I mean, it seems a world away from the very bellicose statement in the Parliament that Mr Abbott made, and it seems to me to be the beginning of the rebuilding of this very important relationship. So we want them to rebuild it. We'd prefer. I think the opposition would prefer to be on good terms with Indonesia. We see it as an important trading relationship, an important security relationship, an important defence relationship, and of course an important people-to-people relationship. So, you know, we're encouraging the government to get on with the job of rebuilding this, you know, important diplomatic friendship that we have with the Indonesians.
Wyatt Roy, has the Prime Minister now taken a leaf out of Barack Obama's book? The message from President Yudhoyono yesterday seemed to suggest that he did give an assurance that there'd be nothing that his government would do that would adversely affect the bilateral relationship into the future. That assurance, as I say, is it taking a leaf out of the US President's playbook on this?
Well, what we have seen is that we recognise that this is the most important relationship for our nation. The Indonesian President has responded very warmly to the Prime Minister's letter, and it was the Indonesian President who suggested that two trusted envoys meet in the next few days to work through these other issues. And I think that we can take a great deal of heart from that. I think we are progressing and moving forward this relationship, and both nations will gain an enormous amount from that. We have had difficult stages in this relationship before, but we have moved through those, and both nations have been better for it. So I think this is an important step forward, and we will see what comes of the negotiations of most likely the Foreign Minister and the Indonesian government.
Let's turn to domestic issues now. And Nick Champion, I want to get your reaction to the Treasurer Joe Hockey's comments relating to Qantas. He addressed an Australia-New Zealand leadership forum where he basically opened the way for majority foreign ownership of the national carrier. He says there needs to be a debate about whether we need to have or should have a national carrier into the future, that it's not a level playing field up against the likes of Virgin now. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's a bit hard to keep up with Joe. What's a thought bubble and what's a serious policy proposal? He does have a habit of going to business lunches and proposing that we have a debate on something, but then never following it up with any, there's no meat in the bones. So we'll have to wait and see if this is a real proposal or a thought bubble. But more broadly, this is a government that's, has serious divisions on foreign investment. In the car industry where we want foreign investment, they're against it. We know that they're against foreign investment in the grains industry if we're talking about the National Party, but they're for it in terms of the Liberal Party. And here we find yet another debate that they're having. This time in public about foreign investment. So it's a confused picture
what about
from the
your
government.
View? You've given a good free critique of the government. Now, what's your view on it?
Yeah, well, look, the government put this on the table. I mean, I think it's important that Australia has a national carrier. We're an island nation. I think it's important we have a national carrier and a national line, maritime line. I think they are important things for island nations to have.
How do you make it more competitive then?
Well, look, I think we have to be very, very careful not to jeopardise jobs and not to jeopardise investment. And we have to remember that the Qantas Sale Act sets up not just a set of restrictions on Qantas, but also there's a set of privileges in there as well for the national carrier. So, it swings and roundabouts for Qantas, and we have to be very, very careful that in some process, some sort of thought bubble debate triggered by the Treasurer, we don't lose jobs, lose an important national icon, and this sort of grasping effort to get foreign investment.
Wyatt Roy, Nick Champion says it's a thought bubble. However you characterise it. It's been welcomed by the Qantas chief Alan Joyce. What's your view on it? Should the Qantas Sale Act be looked at once again, and the rules governing Qantas and its shareholdings be relaxed?
Well, I think it's really important that we have this discussion, and I think it's a good thing that the Treasurer raised this discussion for public debate. Essentially what we have is that consumers are benefiting at the moment because we have greater competition in the marketplace, and Virgin is offering a product that consumers like, and so foreign investors have put their money behind Virgin and invested in Virgin, and Qantas is restricted from attracting foreign investment into its company to compete on a level playing field. So we do have to have a debate about whether we want to have a better outcome for consumers, and we want to allow foreign investors to back Qantas in the same way that they can back Virgin, or do we want to have a national carrier and have taxpayers prop up a Qantas? And I think it's important that we have that debate, and with a bit more competition in the marketplace, what we have seen is that consumers have got a better product. People like what they get from Virgin, foreign investors like what they get from Virgin, and currently Qantas is denied the opportunity to attract foreign investment to its company. So I think it's appropriate that we have this debate, and I think it's a good thing that the Treasurer has raised that. Let's see what Qantas brings forward, and the government will consider it.
Let's look at the last issue this morning that we've got time for, and that's the Gonski school funding model, or the government's revised plan. Nick Champion, it looks like Christopher Pyne will be able to bring those states that held out on the former Labor government's proposals. He's promising upwards of $200 million additional funding for those particular states next year. And if you look at this debate, technically, the government has got a point, hasn't it, in terms of the amount that the former Labor government had allocated to school funding in its final economic statement, that they're actually improving on that.
Well, look, what Chris Pyne's doing is shoveling money at Liberal states, which played a distinctly obstructionist role in education reform. And the whole idea was not just for the federal government to put in extra funds, but for state governments to put in extra funds. We know there's been a tendency in this country for, this sort of pea and thimble trick where, the feds will put money in and the states will take money out. I don't think that's very good for education or for students or for families. So, Chris Pyne's been played off a break by the obstructionist Liberal states.
Nick Champion, Wyatt Roy, we've got to wrap it up. I appreciate